What's up, what's good? It's your boy CJack. We here to react. It's CJack Reacts. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video, as well as subscribe to the other podcast channel, the CJack Show. Today's video is why do black men like bigger butts than other races? Personally, this was not something that I thought was only a phenomenon that occurred amongst black men. Maybe it's because I live in the world that we're in today, but I always thought that this was something that a little bit of everybody enjoyed. Obviously, everyone has their own preferences and everything like that, but this video is specifically titled, Why Do Black Men Like Bigger Butts?
I like big butts and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny.
The elephant in the room is this: why do black men like big butts? And is that even true, or is it just another wrong racial stereotype? They're questions that have launched 1,000 rap lyrics and even a few scientific studies.
Oh, it's true. Damn true. It's for sure true. I can only speak for myself. Having dated a variety of women in my life, I've dated women who have bigger butts. I've dated women who have smaller butts. And either way, I'm fine. As long as it's something to grab onto, this is just my preference, but as long as it's something that's like, you know, I'm not too picky. If I like you, I like you. It's, you know.
Here, I try to give you a fair and balanced look at geopolitical issues, awkward questions around race and gender, our uncomfortable history, and of course, the female backside. So I dug in to try to figure it out. And what I found surprised me. It goes way deeper than pop culture or Instagram likes. We'll look into the evolutionary roots of why men find certain shapes attractive, the contrasting beauty standards between African and Europeans, and how they've changed over time, but persisted in African American culture. And let me get my own biases out of the way first. For all my life, I've been a small butt guy. So I was fascinated at how millions of men came to the opposite conclusion.
Oh, we would never been able to tell that. Thank you, sir. Mr. What's his name? Ken? You know, Ken, we could tell you like a little smaller butt, man. There's nothing personal. No, nothing against it at all. We can just tell that you ain't one of us. They not like us. They not like us.
Is fair. Do black men, in fact, love big butts more than others? And can I generalize about an entire race's preferences? Actually, yes, I can, especially when there's solid science backing it up. And on this, the science is clear. Black men love big butts, and it's not even debatable. Now,
yeah, it's funny how he says solid science, and it's just funny because like as a black person, it used to be solid science that we had more bones in we had different bone structure to make us like run faster and jump higher. It used to be solid science that we had smaller brains and stuff like that. There's always been some kind of science around black people. I'm just gonna say that right now.
I know some of you are gonna think guys of all races like big butts, and that's true, but there's a spectrum of preferences within every group. And the data consistently shows that race plays a significant role in backside desires. Let's start with some data. A study by the University of Texas found that African American men are twice as likely to prefer a large rear compared to their white counterparts. But it's not just a black and white issue. The study also found that Latino men share this preference, but to a lesser degree than the African American men.
I was about to say, because I've seen a lot of my Hispanic Latino brothers enjoy the same things that we enjoy as well as black men. But even like white dudes, you know, I don't know. I don't think it's really I will say this though, in a sense of just America, North versus South, North versus South. Being from the South, maybe it's more prominent that bigger butts are down here, or we like bigger butts down here. I ain't been up north too much, so I wouldn't be able to tell you.
African American men were far more likely to search for thicker, curvier body types compared to white men. And interestingly, it's not just about the size of the prize. It turns out that there's an ideal angle of the dangle. The University of Texas study found that men overwhelmingly preferred a 45-degree curve at the lower spine.
The angle of the dangle thing was weird. I don't know why he said that. But
it's not just about the back. It's about the waist to hip ratio, to be precise. Studies show that the preferred ratio differs significantly by race. African American men tend to prefer a more extreme contrast between a small waist and large hips, while white men generally prefer a more moderate difference. So why is this the case? How did these different beauty standards develop? Is it nature or nurture that's shaping these preferences?
No, Ken. I see what you did there when it comes to shaping preferences. I see what you did there. I think it's more of a nature thing, especially when it comes to like proxemics. Like I said, here in America, I think that it's more prominent in the South versus in the North. I don't know. That's just my perspectives.
Now, at its base level, there are biological and environmental factors at play. In historical Africa, a bigger body made a lot of evolutionary sense. The continent's harsh climate and inconsistent food supplies meant that some extra body fat could literally be the difference between life and death during lean times. It meant strength. It meant health.
We enjoy a nice, healthy butt. Yes, healthy booty 2025.
In an environment where resources were scarce, curves became a visible marker of health, wealth, and fertility. Now here's where it gets less clear. Was it really men choosing fuller women over skinnier ones? Or is it that given the environment, those that thrived had those bodies?
Here, average natural adult female hip measurement. Wow, okay. See, that's what I was thinking, because like mainly in South America, Mexico, South Africa, and Central Africa. And I'm pretty sure that's Iran. That might be Iraq, but it's like a Middle Eastern country. That actually checks out, because we think of most Caucasian countries are in either orange or lighter, and then when you think of more Hispanic or brown skin, darker countries are going to be in the darker. So this actually makes a lot of sense. It actually shows like a little bit of my dating preferences. I wouldn't say all the way.
Given the environment, those that thrived had those bodies. I mean, the things that we see are the things that we covet, and if that's what you saw, that's what you're going to love. Now, those traits aren't unique to Africa, of course. Throughout history and across many cultures, fullness has been linked to fertility and vitality. But in the context of African environments, these biological signals seem to take on an especially important role. As African societies developed, the evolutionary preferences became encoded into cultural beauty standards. When Europeans arrived with their own beauty standards, many African cultures actively resisted these impositions. Maintaining traditional aesthetics became a form of cultural preservation and identity in the face of oppression. Now, fast forward to today, and we can see how these deep-rooted preferences continue to shape beauty standards in the African American communities. Cultural artwork from
It's not even wrong. Not even, because a lot of what you hear nowadays is, especially on like social media and stuff, black women aren't seen as the most beautiful because we operate on a European standard of beauty here in America, which may or may not be true. In terms of America, you have to give America kind of grace because America is still developing as a country. In terms of being its own country, it's still a very, very, very young place. So we haven't seen a place like America where there's such a mixture of culture, and that's the point of what America is supposed to be. With any culture, you want to preserve what makes your culture it, or even kind of when it comes to small things, and especially here in America where our culture is deemed, if we're setting a whole entire setting of a culture as Americans, our culture is seen as more towards European beauty standards, I would say so. On a personal level, it doesn't really do much, but on a widespread level, on a macro level, I can understand.
There's also been a strong community emphasis on resisting mainstream beauty standards that are often rooted in European ideals. For many, embracing fuller figures is a way of kind of honoring their cultural heritage and identity. So maybe the preference for larger body types in
terms of cultural assimilation and everybody becoming one culture, I think that's the hard part of what's happening right now in America, is that being united under one identity and one culture in a country in which you have multiple different cultures represented, and that's the point of the country. It's interesting, I don't think we've seen anything like this in our time thus far. It's just kind of part of what comes with a country like ours, I would say.
But a result of thousands of years of evolutionary adaptations and cultural traditions. But what about white preferences? While African beauty standards remain relatively stable, European ideals took a wild ride. Back in the day, Europeans liked those big booties too. Renaissance paintings are full of voluptuous women, ample curves. Rubens, the 17th century Flemish painter, was so famous for his full-figured nudes that we still use the term Rubenesque to describe them today. But then something happened. Europe industrialized. And with it came a seismic shift in beauty standards. The Industrial Revolution wasn't just about factories and steam engines. It also changed food production, making calories cheaper and more abundant than ever before. Suddenly, being plump wasn't a sign of wealth anymore. Anyone could do it. So the upper classes needed a new way to distinguish themselves. Enter the corset. Nothing says, I don't need to work for a living, like a waist that you...
I wonder if that goes into what the obesity rate of America is nowadays. Yeah, I really wonder if that plays into the race in which we see, obesity in our country. In terms of the world, our country is one of the biggest countries in the world. What he's saying makes a lot of sense when we have to think about our culture nowadays.
The Victorian era doubled down on the trend. They associated thinness with moral purity and self-control. Bigger women, they were seen as lazy and lacking willpower. Fast forward to the 20th century and things get even more intense. The rise of mass media, magazines, movies, TV, started beaming these new ideals into every home. While European standards were changing, African beauty ideals stayed relatively stable. I mean, many African societies industrialized more slowly, some still haven't. So the pressures that shifted European ideals weren't as intense. But come back to America for a second. I mean, Black Americans live in an industrialized society too. Why haven't their preferences changed? And it's a good question. And it's because African American culture developed its own unique identity.
I like the way he said that. Let's take the big elephant in the room. No pun intended. Lizzo. You see how Lizzo just... And maybe that's the shift that we're going through. How Doja Cat got skinnier. Lizzo dropped a lot of weight, and the whole body positivity thing is kind of starting to kind of fizzle out a little bit. There's a cultural shift going on in front of our own eyes. Wow, he's really hitting on a lot of topics that are just bigger than just black men preferring like bigger butts and stuff like that. I thought this was all the video was going to be about. Social media, mainstream media, and the world we live in today, things have changed completely.
A distinct counterculture. Rejecting white standards became a form of resistance, and strong oral traditions and tight-knit communities kept cultural preferences strong, even as the broader society changed around them. And at the same time, white America basically rejected them. Forced segregation created parallel societies with different values. It limited the influence of mainstream media and strengthened the internal community bonds. For blacks, the concept of America's melting pot happened a lot more slowly. Even as black Americans gained more access to mainstream culture, there was often a strong pushback against whitewashing beauty standards. Today, we're seeing some interesting convergences. Mainstream beauty standards are becoming more inclusive of curvier figures.
Yes, yes. Because this is the era I grew up in now. The body positivity and stuff like that. It's starting to get good.
Is this a genuine appreciation, or is it marketing exploitation? Or is that all intermixed? I don't know. So the next time you see a Renaissance painting or a modern fashion magazine, remember, beauty standards aren't set in stone. They're as changeable as the societies that create them.
Thank you for saying that. Beauty standards are not set in stone. For all my ladies out there, you are beautiful the way you are. There is a standard overall. I think there should just be a standard of being healthy in your own body. I don't know. I really don't know. Because as humans, we go based off of a lot of what we see. You know, it's just of appearances and stuff. Like I said, you see women with all kind of different shapes and sizes. You can tell who's someone who's healthy and who's not. It really all comes down to personal preferences, especially in a society like ours where everything is so individualized. You gotta take our society with a little grain of salt because...
As always, I'll address it in a pinned comment below. But when you think about it, even this video is coming at things from a European standpoint. Why do white guys like small butts? And that hits at something deeper. For centuries, European standards dominated global beauty. They owned the magazines, they controlled the fashion houses, they ran the movie studios. They got to tell everyone else what beautiful meant. But nature's a stubborn thing. Those African preferences that developed over thousands of years weren't just random choices, they were rooted in biology.
A beautiful woman is a beautiful woman. I'm gonna say this right now. Obviously, there's gonna be preferences, and obviously, there's like a level of standard. But it really comes down to being healthy and being just secure within who you are.
Now, maybe it was the internet democratizing beauty standards. Maybe it was the rise of hip hop culture. But what's really
he put the right one on there for me, man. If you know me for real, you know I'm not a big city girls person. I'm not into that side of the culture, all that. But Lotto.
And then just preferences. We're watching centuries of parallel beauty standards finally collide. Now, some say it's cultural appropriation, others call it progress. But here's what they're missing. African American beauty standards didn't just survive. In some ways, they're winning the cultural war.
I've been wanting to talk about this for a minute too, of how a lot of what happens in our culture is prominent. And I say spills out, but it spills out into other cultures. I'm gonna say this right now. I had a ride share, okay? She was Hispanic, okay? She didn't speak English, but I speak enough Spanish to have a conversation at least. Her phone rang, and I'm sitting in the front, and when her phone rang, it said "mi negro, mi negro," and I'm thinking like, yo, is our culture really like? You can see it like my in Spanish like is crazy. It was just the fact that she even what's the other country, Laney Wilson or something like that. Real ones know who I'm talking about. No, he actually hit on something that I might do in another video.
So it's certainly possible that Sir Mix-a-Lot was a philosopher ahead of his time. I find that interesting, but not interesting enough to change the team I'm on. So look, this video about body preferences is pretty lighthearted, but in recent years we've seen the body positivity movement turn into something that's deadly toxic. Our media and our society went from trying to be nice to overweight people to something that celebrated and encouraged radically dangerous lifestyles. It's like some people lost their minds.
And we might do a reaction to that one later, but for now we're gonna end this one right there. Let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what your preferences are when it comes to how you prefer your backside of your woman, and let me know what you think in general. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And till next time, it's been CJack. Y'all be good. Peace.